some silver lining to the shutdown. According to their official website, during the shutdown, our friends at the FCC will cease their response to consumer complaint and inquiry phone lines, which I'm not a lawyer, but I think means we can now say whatever we want on TV.
It reminds me of Munich in 1933. You've seen the film footage there, the big stadium in Munich. The Democrats, that was, of course, Jimmy Kimmel. Does he still have that TV show? Pretending still that it was the FCC that shut him down and not just ABC Disney. Live the lie. Live the lie. LTL. It's the Democrat Party's, well, one of their slogans. They have several slogans. Let's dance. Well, guten Morgen and happy Thursday to you. It's a wonderful world, but there are a lot of weasels in it. Sharp-toothed weasels. People that don't tell the truth. We call them Democrats. You can spell that any way you'd like. Demic rats, demon rats. They have a lot of alternate spellings. They're all transgender. Did you know that? Now it's official. Every Democrat is transgender. I'm suggesting to the White House that they ban the Second Amendment for registered Democrats. Proven to be much too dangerous. Way, way too dangerous. But we have Hanoi Jane in the news, too. Did you see this? Hanoi Jane has made a comeback, and she, what is she? Is she really Nancy Pelosi? Is that what's going on here? Maybe the person that we think is Nancy Pelosi is really Jane Fonda. Could be Hanoi Jane Fonda, been the case for a long time. What an actress. Boy, she's amazing. She should get at least an Emmy for that. But we've got Hanoi Jane. She is back in the news. She's out there. She's on the television or wherever they go. Podcasts, things like that. And Newsmax.com has the story. White House hits back at Jane Fonda's free speech reboot. She's got a free speech since we opened with Jimmy Kimmel there. Hanoi Jane says, and as I like to say, they have no sense of irony. And I say that because they clearly have no sense of irony. So much of what they do is ironic, and they're unaware of it, entirely unaware of the irony that they spread, oblivious to the whole thing. Hanoi Jane, though, a traitor to her country, a disgrace to her father, says the U.S. government is once again engaged in a coordinated campaign to silence critics in the government, the media, the judiciary, academia, and the entertainment industry. Once again, she said, that's what she said, because, Twitter and Facebook banned President Trump, and of course, the Obama administration used the IRS against Tea Party groups and patriot groups, and they used the Department of Justice and the FBI against Naval Academy grads and Trump staffers all around. They abused the FISA courts to spy on my colleague at Newsmax, for example, James Rosen, and they spied on the New York Times, and they spied on the Associated Press. The communist-run CIA, when penitentiary faced John Brennan was chief of the CIA, thanks to Barack Obama, who was mentored by a communist as a teenager named Frank Marshall Davis. Then he made a Communist Party voter. John Penitentiary faced Brennan, the CIA director. Then the communist voting CIA director abused the CIA to corrupt a presidential election. And remember that, the Felonious 51 signing a document saying that all the reporting at the New York Post, which was all 100% true, about Hunter Biden's laptop had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. That was a big lie, though. And so she says the U.S. government is once again engaged in a coordinated campaign, which is completely delusional, but they love being victims. They stay home at night. They lay flat on their face on the floor, and they victimize themselves. Have you seen? Some of them posted on the internet. It's you shouldn't watch it. I wouldn't recommend watching it. But there it is. Newsmax had the story and has the story, and Hanoi Jane. Hanoi Jane is all about that. And the White House hits back at Hanoi Jane Fonda's free speech reboot. They love to. There is no status more exalted than that of victim in the left-wing world, in the Democrat Party world. The White House is dismissing Hanoi Jane Fonda's revival of the McCarthy-era Hollywood group on the free speech they pretend that they're pro-free speech, but the Democrat Party fascists, they like Adolf Hitler's Socialist Workers' Party, they trample free speech at every turn. And academia, this all started long ago in academia. Remember when we were doing stories about it here years and years ago, when on college campuses they set up little square pens about 10 feet by 10 feet, and they declared it to be with police ribbon and in metal stands, and the stanchions perhaps, and they said this is a free speech zone. They had a free speech zone on college campuses. And I remember at the time saying, jawohl, meine Schatzi, Deutschland, Deutschland. But they had no idea what I was talking about because they don't know what the word history means either. They sometimes use the words, but they very often don't know what they mean. So just amazing stuff. And the White House said that Hanoi Jane is free to share whatever bad opinions she wants. That's just great. Isn't that wonderful? The Hill reported on Wednesday, in addition to Newsmax, Hanoi Jane, who's 87 years old and still alive because of our terrible, awful, sexist, racist healthcare system that the Democrats just fixed under Obama. Remember that? That was about 20 minutes ago, historically speaking. Hanoi Jane, 87, announced she was relaunching the Committee for the First Amendment, originally founded in 1947 by her father, Henry Fonda, who was not a communist, and other entertainers. The entertainers, they formed a thing called the Committee for the First Amendment. Of course, there were a lot of communists in Hollywood at the time, and there were communists in the State Department, too. See Senator Joe McCarthy. And they've been attacking this and claiming for all these years that it was never true, but it's been proven to be true again and again and again. But the Committee for the First Amendment, honestly, President Trump has been paid off again and again and again by these Democrat Party groups because of them denying his free speech and deplatforming him and all of that crazy stuff. But you got Hanoi Jane, whatever she says is wrong because she's not very bright. She's not bright at all. She's just rich because she played that Clute, a prostitute, right? I was a prostitute. I'm looking at Jeff Wolf, he's my movie expert of the day. Michael Piercy is operating from home today because of the patriarchy. He can do that because of all the miracles that the patriarchy has created, and we get to enjoy the fruits of the labors of the patriarchy. But maybe Hanoi Jane should look at the fact that YouTube just agreed to pay President Trump $24.5 million because they suspended a sentence, and they had no legitimate reason to do that except left-wing political radicals who are, put a gun to the baby's head every day and pull the hammer back, and the rest. Facebook then agreed, earlier actually, not then, but before YouTube, agreed to pay Trump $25 million for suspending him for political reasons. The Twitter people, before it was owned by Elon Musk, who had to come here from South Africa to show the Democrats what it means to be an American, because the Democrats forgot long ago, because, they're just power-greedy, corrupt Soros people, and they're all transgender. Twitter agreed to pay President Trump $10 million for suspending him. ABC News, fake news with that guy, George Snuffleupagus, who was just a Clinton administration official, and then, bam, overnight, he's a world-famous network news anchorman for $25 million. Isn't that amazing? A year. That's not like over the 5 years or anything. That's a year. Because the Democrat Party pays for propaganda, and boy, they pay a lot better than the radio people do, I'll tell you that much. ABC News agreed to pay Trump $15 million to settle a defamation suit when Snuffleupagus said that he had been convicted of rape. I think that was it. And that wasn't true, but it doesn't matter because the Democrat Party, how the Democrat Party is just amazing. 60 Minutes agreed to pay Trump $16 million for the corrupt editing of their Kamala Harris interview that was designed to make him look bad and make Kamala Harris look good because, hey, maybe we should have this committee on free speech because these Hitlerites over here, they're like Hitler. They dress in Gestapo uniforms, have little riding crops, and the men dress like ladies and they whip each other and things like that because it's a Democrat Party. And they have a fishbowl. If you go into a Democrat's house and they're having people over for dinner, they got a fishbowl by the front door. That means they're all swapping wives. and husbands. I don't know why they don't call it husband swapping, isn't it? Doesn't it turn out to be the same thing? Kind of sexist, don't you think? So we've got that. But Hanoi Jane, she's back in the fold because she's a Democrat, and the Democrats never go away. Isn't that amazing? Also, I got a fun meme. Actually, my best girl sent me this fun meme, and it is Tim Herlocker. Tim Herlocker posted it on the Twitter, on the X, and it's the headline is "Participation Trophies Really Did Ruin Society," and they've got a fun photograph of two photographs really. One is of Dwight David Eisenhower, who became the president of the United States after he liberated Europe from the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler in World War II. And there's General Eisenhower, and he has ribbons. He's wearing in his uniform. He's got his uniform on, and he has 5 ribbons on his chest, 5 ribbons. He liberated Europe. And then next to him, they got General Thoroughly Modern Milley, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during Joe Biden's run, and he wanted to have a cross-dressing dance troupe instead of U.S. military. And he wanted to have them putting on shows, turn, kick, turn, because he wanted to put on a show, and he wanted the whole military to be transgender. But here's Dwight Eisenhower with 5 ribbons on his jacket, on his uniform. And here's Thoroughly Modern Milley, who never left the United States, as far as we know. And he's got his combat infantryman badge. Then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think, rows of ribbons. And it looks like he conquered the universe compared to Eisenhower. But what did he do? Then he's got all these medallions below, and his Joint Chiefs of Staff pins, and his Ranger, and his Airborne, and his halo jumping, and he's got all these, and he's just covered with decorations. And here's Eisenhower, who actually did something rather huge and historic. You know, he's Julius Caesar compared to Thoroughly Modern Milley. And it's true, it became the culture of the participation trophy because the thing. And I actually went and found another picture of Eisenhower where he just has 3 ribbons, and he's a 5-star general, and he's got 3 ribbons on his uniform. And here's Thoroughly Modern Milley with like 44 of them because he once flew over Iraq and stopped to get gas or something like that. Isn't that amazing? Womp, womp, womp. The Democrats did that because they take everything and they ruin it. That's what they do. I am telling you. Yes, sir. Yep. And, it's like Senator John Kennedy said. I played the audio for you yesterday. A couple of days ago, Senator John Kennedy, who's usually very funny and pretty much always right, he said, everything happens for a reason, but sometimes the reason is you're stupid and you made a bad decision. And I'd say, it goes back to the old axiom that life is hard, but it's harder when you're stupid. And I think we should raise Democrat children on that. That's wonderful stuff. So we've got that going. Yes, we do. Professor Alan Dershowitz, law professor emeritus at the Harvard University, which used to be a real humdinger of a school, didn't it? It was a humdinger of a school. But he said he's had it with the Democrat Party because they're insane. And he's even okay with them all being cross-dressers. Oh, speaking of Harvard University, and we got the government shut down. I know we've got government shut down, and we got a lot of real serious stuff going on here. But the Washington Post, they're concerned the Democrats have walked into a disaster and walked into Trump's trap. It's a trap set by Trump, and they're too stupid to know that. But we've got Harvard University story, because they have hired a culturally insensitive, cross-dressing, transgender stripper freakazoid to teach, to be a professor at the Harvard University. And wait till you hear about this. Are you familiar with the, well, I want to share it with you, but I've got to get the whole thing in front of me because they're completely crazy, And at Harvard University, they got a new professor. It's Trenny, looks like a street hooker down on 7th Street in Washington, D.C., down by Samuel Gompers Park. Cross-dressing, tranny, street hooker / Harvard professor, because that's what the Democrats do. Also got Hilaria Baldwin. Remember her? Her name is Hilarious, and she's kind of in the news. I'll explain that Yeah, but what do you hear about this Harvard drag queen? I think this is very insensitive. You know, there is a city in Pakistan called Lahore. It's called Lahore in Pakistan. I think it's in the Punjab. And this Harvard hire is very, very culturally insensitive. I'll explain that coming up. We're at 888-630-9625. Okay. Now, I said I wanted to share the Harvard University story with you. Not what it used to be. I'm not sure it ever was what it used to be, but maybe it was. Harvard hires drag queen named Lahore Vagistan. Lahore Vagistan and Harvard hired this man who pretends now there is a city in Pakistan that is called Lahore. It's Lahore, Lahore in Pakistan. I believe it's in the Punjab, and that's a province. Harvard hires drag queen, first of all, start with that, named, quote, Lawhore, second word, Vagistan, as visiting professor. The Harvard University in Boston, Massachusetts, Cambridge, Mass., hired a drag performer as the new professor who is expected to teach class on the TV show RuPaul's Drag Race. So if you worked your whole life to save up enough money and work hard and get the tutors to get your kid into Harvard, and your kid gets to Harvard, gets a major in RuPaul's Drag Race, the TV show, can take the class from a drag queen who goes by Lahore Vagistan, because that's the professor at Harvard University. Ought to be on 60 Minutes and The View, and probably will be. So they teach the class on the TV show RuPaul's Drag Race. RuPaul is actually kind of a funny cross-dressing drag queen from many years ago, still around, intelligent, always made fun of the whole thing, made a living off of it. But never mind that. RuPaul's Drag Race is the class. The spring semester, the Ivy League school announced that they've hired this person. Here's a picture of the person. Couldn't look more ridiculous if you saw this person out on a street corner in Washington, D.C., and you might, then you probably would steer clear, and it would be good for your health if you did. The institution, Harvard, welcomed Kareem, listen now, Kareem Kubchandani, in a July message to the college community, and revealed that the visiting professor from Tufts University, stole him away from another university, will teach in the Studies of Gender and Sexuality program, thanks to the Harvard Gender and Sexuality Caucus. Sure. Kubchandani is better known by his stage name, Lahore Vagistan, a persona that the academic has made an integral part of their pedagogy. This is the Democrat Party. Why do you think they call it higher education? They've all got bongs under their desks. They get super stoned. Then they say, hey, got this cross-dressing freak show. He's a man of color who pretends to be a woman of color. And he calls himself Lahore Vagistan, an obvious play on the city of Lahore in Pakistan. And I've got to say, I think this is very culturally insensitive. And Harvard should be called out maybe by ISIS about this. Maybe ISIS would want to take issue with this. Maybe the government of Pakistan would want to take issue with this. But this is the highest of higher learning in the United States of America. It's where they all go, them, those people. And it's not a serious institution. It should be mocked and ridiculed. And if you employ a Harvard grad, that Harvard grad should probably be let go today. Just fire that Harvard grad. We should make that a day. We have National Pizza Pie Day and Ice Cream Day. We should have Fire a Harvard Grad Day. One day a year. What day should that be? There's got to be a date that would be appropriate to have Fire a Harvard Grad Day. But let's go to the telephones. We have Jeff Wolf here in the slot position today because Michael Piercy is working, but he's working from home. He has fun to do with his son today, his son Max. But but Jeff is here in the studio. So, Jeff, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Seabass, calling from Front Royal, Virginia. Seabass, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
What do you say, Chris? How's your day today?
Oh, it couldn't be better. You know, life in America, the living is easy. Doesn't get better. I didn't go to Harvard, so I'm okay.
I called you a couple months ago about my daughter going to VCU for that same stupid degree that you're talking about, the gender and whatever studies there.
Yeah, gender studies. I remember. Well, how could I forget Seabass calling in? Of course I remember you calling in.
I said she couldn't find a job after applying everywhere. Anyway, talked to her a couple days ago. She works at the Commissioner of the Revenue in Richmond now.
At the Office of the Commissioner of Revenue in Richmond. So she got a government job with a gender studies degree from Virginia Commonwealth University.
I don't know if that's what got her there, but, you know, she says it pays the bills. I said, well, maybe you could skim some revenue off the top to pay your overpriced college loans.
Student loans, got to pay the student loans. So you probably shouldn't recommend that she skim, though, because then, you know, they'll end up, the FBI will raid your home in a pre-dawn raid with battering rams and shoot your dog, and they'll have a CNN crew across the street because that's how that works. And then she'll be fine. She'll be promoted. They'll make her the Commissioner of Revenue in Virginia. Hey, you know, look, Seabass, that's why we have government. We have government so that people can get government jobs. What kind of people get government jobs? Well, people with degrees in gender studies, you know, that her job has nothing to do with gender studies, right? But, hey, look, I've got to say this, Seabass. She gave you the right answer. It pays the bills. And that's good, and that's fine. And maybe she'll learn a lot, if not in college, then in her first job out of college.
Yeah, on a second note, the Free Palestine freaks are out my way now. There's graffiti underneath a 66 overpass. And then the Charlie Kirk Memorial in Culpeper got defaced and spray painted over. Nick Freitas put that out on Facebook this morning. So they're moving out west.
Which Charlie Kirk Memorial in which town?
In Culpeper.
In Culpeper. I got to tell you, the Democrat Party is a vile gang of rabble, aren't they? They should wear armbands and brown uniforms. They already goose-step all over the place. They're goose-stepping outside of Chicago, attacking the ICE facility. They're goose-stepping in Portland, Oregon. They've got mobs out on the street attacking federal officers and federal this and federal that. Police made, it's just, you know, they're making arrests every day in all these locations because the Democrat Party has done this to our country, Seabass. There's no doubt about it. So they're vandalizing in Culpeper, of all places, which is America. And I hope that they find the people and give them the electric chair. I think, do they still have the electric chair in Virginia? I'd like to think they do. And you know, grab these people a bit of nightstick and then maybe leg shackles and preferably the electric chair. I like because, you know, then you get to call it Old Sparky and people get to tell stories about watching the executions while they spark up and all that stuff. It's kind of fun. But attacking the Charlie Kirk Memorial and vandalizing it in Culpeper, Virginia. And you got your Free Palestine graffiti on I-66 and the overpasses on I-6 to Interstate 66 because the left is just rabble and they're filth, and they love death more than we love life. They love murder. They love hostage-taking like Hamas and the so-called Palestinians and all of that stuff. And you know, and they take gender studies when they're in college. So what more can we say about the Democrat Party, Seabass?
They need to study their genders because obviously they're confused about all 58 of them.
They definitely are. You know, I wonder what they do if they stand naked in front of a mirror. Are they just confused and befuddled? They don't know what to make of all this? I think that's probably the case. But Seabass, you also wanted to talk about Harvard University because they've got a new professor. They've got a new professor teaching gender studies there. And I know that your daughter has a gender studies degree. But they have a new professor at the Harvard University who goes insultingly. It's insulting to the people of Pakistan and certainly to the people of the Punjab. because there is a city in the Punjab in Pakistan called Lahore, but it's not spelled like la prostitute. It's Lahore, and it's in Pakistan. It's the biggest city in the Punjab. And this woman, who's a man and not a woman at all, has a beard and dresses up like a woman and wears a bright orange wig and has bright green, giant oversized lipstick and green eyebrow stuff, eye shade stuff, and dresses in rainbow dresses that are too tight for his big fat belly, and embarrassing. And look, if this guy wants to dress up and call himself Lahore Vagistan and be a whatever, that's fine. But now we live in a culture, Seabass, where the Harvard University, which used to have some respect, I remember when they did have respect, they hired this guy and said that he's going to call himself Lahore Vagistan and teach a course at Harvard University. And Harvard thinks that is great in their gender and sexuality studies program. And they have a Harvard Gender and Sexuality Caucus. And it was the Gender and Sexuality Caucus that angled to bring this person in from another university that ought to be embarrassed, ought to be banished. And I got to tell you, none of these universities should get any government money at all. In an interview, the New York Post writing the story, in an interview with his own drag persona, Vagistan, published by Johns Hopkins University Press in 2015, this dude, whose real name is Kubichan Indani, spilled the tea on the origins of his off-putting stage name, said, "My name is Lahore, Lawhore, and it's a big L, little a, big W, Hre, little ones. Vagistan," he said, "my preferred pronouns are she or auntie, and I chose Lahore because my family traces its origins to Pakistan. Lahore is an important city in Pakistan, and, well, I'm a bit of a whore," he says, the drag queen said. And that was, honestly, this is what academia has become in the United States of America. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's 476 A.D. in Rome, and the empire is collapsing. And the Johns Hopkins University, formerly a respected institution as well, like the Harvard University, but Johns Hopkins University interviewed this person with a straight face and said, "Oh, this is perfectly good." So says Lahore because family goes back to Lahore, Pakistan, and Vagistan because I see the subcontinent as one big, beautiful Vagistan. This is what he said in the interview. And this is Harvard University today. It's Johns Hopkins University. And who else was in here? Tufts University. It should be Tux University, because you got to tuck it away or something like that. But this is academia in the United States of America in 2025. And once again, it's all entirely on the Democrat Party. And I've got to say, I'm going to alert the Pakistani intelligence community. The ISI, I think, needs to find out what's going on at Harvard, because they might not be amused by it. We're going to have to let ISIS know what Harvard is doing. Isn't that amazing? Kub Chandani will teach just 2 classes over the course of 2 semesters. Listen to queer ethnography, and Rue politics. And then they have colon, and they definitely love their colons here. One of the classes is Rue Politics, Drag, Race, and Desire. That's the spring semester course. And there are people that worked real hard their whole lives to get their kids into Harvard. And when their kids get to Harvard, they say, "I think I'm going to take Rue Politics," because that's from the drag queen freakazoid with the everything mentally ill, because that's the Democrat Party, and that's where we are today. So what do you think about Harvard? Because, maybe your daughter's going to want to get a master's degree at Harvard in gender studies as well. What do you think, Seabass?
It's all a cover-up for turning people into little Marxists. That's all it is. And that freak show you're talking about makes Krusty the Clown look normal.
Well, Krusty, I think, was pretty normal, I got to say.
Yeah. I recommend people go look at this character you're talking about. Lavadistan or whatever you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you looked him up, huh? Yeah.
Of course, I had to. Bright orange, very
Yep.
fall-like colors.
That's true. Fall is here, and it is the fall semester at the Harvard University. Yeah, great stuff. That's who they are, Seabass. Hey, listen, I hope that your daughter keeps her job and keeps making enough money to pay the bills. That'd be real good. And who knows, in government, she's obviously a Democrat. She's got a degree in gender studies, so she might end up governor of Virginia one of these days.
That's a scary thought, but I'm going to go back to working on cars so I can pay the bills.
Pay the bills. All right, buddy. Seabass, that's Seabass. Thanks, buddy. That's calling in from Front Royal, Virginia. And I wasn't aware of the Democrats vandalizing the Charlie Kirk Memorial in Culpeper, Virginia, but I'm unsurprised. You know, there's a larger-than-life memorial to Vladimir Lenin, the Soviet communist revolutionary, in downtown Seattle, a giant oversized bronze statue of Lenin. It's never been vandalized. Never been vandalized, because conservatives don't vandalize things like that, and the left would never vandalize the founder of the Bolshevik Revolution, who really got the murder going in the 20th century. And boy, they got a lot done before the century was out, and now they're here because that's your Democrat Party. You know what this does remind me of a little bit is there's another story out there that I didn't get to the other day, but it's kind of a fun story. You know, Emmanuel Macron is the president of France, and it's France, so they've got a lot of issues there already, right? Now, but President Emmanuel Macron, he's got a wife named Brigitte. Brigitte, that's French for Bridget. And Brigitte was his teacher when he was young, and now they're married. And that's fine because it's France, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people have suggested that Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France, the wife of the President of France, is actually a man, actually a dude. That's the story that's out there. I don't actually believe it to be true, but a lot of people have suggested that Brigitte Macron is actually a man and not a lady at all. And that's fine with the French guy because France, right? But here's the headline from Yahoo News. Why does Brigitte Macron need to prove in court that she's a woman? What? Why does she have to prove in court that she's a woman? Headline actually says, why does Brigitte Macron need to prove, in quotation marks, she's a woman in a U.S. court? Emmanuel Macron's wife, who is in a legal dispute with right-wing influencer Candace Owens, will present scientific evidence to prove she's a woman. She's a woman. Candace Owens has started doing some pretty wacky things. I got to say, liked her some time ago. She's gotten a little wacky. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte will present scientific and photographic evidence, look out for that, to a U.S. court to prove the latter was born a woman, it has been reported. A lawyer acting for the couple, on behalf of the couple, said they will present evidence in the defamation case that they have launched against right-wing influencer Candace Owens. Notice they never call left-wing lunatics left-wing lunatics. Why don't they do that? Who has reportedly alleged that Brigitte Macron was born male. The pair's lawyer, Tom Clare, is Clare a woman or a man? Told the BBC's Fame Under Fire podcast that the couple would prove, generally and specifically, that Owens' allegations that Mrs. Macron was born male were false. How can that be? It's a funny world out there. But they're going to bring in photographic evidence. Hey, that's evidence in court. That should be made public, shouldn't it? Isn't that government property? I think it is. I'm telling you. Yes, sir. I've got an update also on a ruling, that rule with the post office, that it's illegal. The post office banned guns in post offices because they don't want them in there. There has been a ruling in court as to that U.S. Postal Service rule. I've got that story for you coming up. And we've got, of course, the government shutdown, which I think is great. It was much easier getting into work today, wasn't it? Everybody's nodding. Yeah, it was much easier getting into work today because the government was closed. Maybe all the trannies stayed home 95% Democrat city, after all.
To do the binds.
All right, we're back, and a lot to talk about the government. I got a lot of idiot Democrats and some Republicans talking about the government closure, the Schumer shutdown, the Lizard King. But right now, let's go back to the telephones. Jeff, let's go to Kevin calling from Florida, from the Villages. I want to sing the song, Kevin, but I'll contain myself. Kevin, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, man, I love you, man. You are the best. And, yeah, I just relocated from Northern Virginia, where I lived all my life, and worked 30 years in federal law enforcement and retired. And down here in the Villages, it is paradise. And down here, it's like there's no violence. There's law and order. Everybody's nice. I don't have to worry about my truck getting vandalized. And one reason I called in today, I've called in before in the past from Virginia, the first time from the Villages.
Excellent.
But your guy, Seabass, Mr. Seabass, that man, that guy's awesome. And what he's saying is exactly what I was experiencing there, especially the past year, and I just got sick of it. And the law and order is just not there. My friends are cops. They lock people up. They get out from, the Fairfax County, prosecutor there. And so, so I've had it. So I got down here and loving life. I'm single, and my 4 boys, like Seabass, luckily they didn't have that option for that, college degree, and that his daughter, I think he was saying, went into. All my boys, graduated in, regular stuff, business and whatever, and they're all good and working, and they're happy for me. So I get down here, Chris, and another reason why I came down is I am taking a call from President Trump, who I love, and our great president, to come back in the service to serve our country with ICE.
So you're joining ICE. 30 years in law enforcement up here. You moved down to Florida, and you're joining up with ICE because you're an American, a proud American, and I bet you have a golf cart, too, but I ran out the clock on you.